I have a clip now that I would like to show you guys. This is from Breaking Points. It's Julia Rock of the Daily Poster reporting on Rahm Emanuel's corruption. Rahm Emanuel, obviously given ambassador to Japan by the Biden administration, probably most known for being mayor of Chicago. He was also part of the Biden administration. Absolutely horrendous politician, in my view. He, where do you even start? The police violence in Chicago is a good place to start. He covered up murders. He also contributed to gentrification. He closed a whole bunch of public schools. He has long stood on the side of neoliberalism. And now we have Julia Rock here explaining how he took money from industries that he then, while he was a member of the media after he was mayor of Chicago and after he was in the Obama administration. He was with ABC News and others, writing op-eds for the Washington Post and things. And Julia Rock explains how his narratives in those cases were influenced by the money that he was taking. It's rank corruption leading to neoliberal propaganda. So we will take a watch. This is Breaking Points talking to Julia Rock.
A piece out about former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, everybody's favorite. And you detail what you describe, and we can throw this tear sheet up on the screen, as the corporate-funded rehabilitation of Rahm Emanuel. And effectively what you do here is break down the money that he's taken from various corporate interests, how that has potentially impacted some of the commentary that he has offered in mainstream outlets, and also, by the way, the fact that none of those mainstream outlets ever disclosed that he had these very direct conflicts of interest. Just break down for us what you found.
Yeah, so after Emanuel left the mayor's office in Chicago in 2019, he got a job with ABC News as a pundit, as well as a couple of, smaller gigs writing op-eds for places like Politico, the Washington Post. He had a really short stint at The Atlantic as a contributing editor. And during that time, between 2019 and when he was nominated for the ambassadorship to Japan a couple of months ago, Emanuel just kind of trashed key progressive policies such as Medicare For All, a Green New Deal, as well as mainstream positions within the Democratic Party, such as raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, something that Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden both support, making college more affordable and accessible. And during that time when he was writing those op-eds and appearing on ABC News to disparage progressives, he was also making quite a bit of money working for an investment banking advisory firm called Centerview Partners. He made about $12.5 million during the 2 years between being in office and being nominated for the ambassadorship. And we looked through the deals that firm was working on during that time. And as it turns out, a lot of those deals were with major pharmaceutical companies and fossil fuel companies. So some companies would be familiar, such as Gilead, which manufactured the government-funded COVID treatment drug, as well as Pacific Gas and Electric, the utility in California. So these are companies that, are involved in lobbying against the policies that Emanuel was trashing on TV and in the pages of mainstream publications. And, like you said, it was never disclosed that he was taking in money from this firm and working on these deals while he was writing those op-eds and going on those tirades.
It is wild. I mean, $12 million, that's good work if you can get it. And what I'm really looking at here was that what you're pointing to in the disclosure is that during that exact time, whenever he was in the media, this investment deals that they were working on were directly impacted by policies he was discussing. Is that right?
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Gilead pharmaceutical deal that you guys point to, just explain that a little bit.
Got you. Yeah. So policies that he is on TV talking about exactly are policies that would directly affect these companies and the things they're working on. So Medicare For All is a good example. I think, not a lot of people necessarily know this, but some of the biggest lobbying money against Medicare For All has been from the pharmaceutical companies. And, the same goes for a Green New Deal, which is less of a specific policy, but kind of a collection of climate policies. And the utilities, again, have been really important kind of sources of money for lobbying efforts against climate action. So yeah, again, these policies he's talking about would kind of directly affect these companies. It's not some like tangential or down the road impact.
So obviously, Rahm Emanuel, it's not surprising that this is how he was conducting himself, but I think it's quite an insight into how the media actually operates, because I guarantee you ABC did not inform anybody that he was getting this money, nor would the Washington Post or whoever else he was working for. So it's a little insight into how guests on mainstream networks are treated. There's no transparency about where that person might make their money from, or where they may have worked previously, who they might be connected to, etc. So the incentive for that person to comment in a certain way is just totally left out of the discussion. And if someone dares to bring it up, then they're treated like they've done something taboo. How dare you reveal that this person is engaging in a conflict of interest, right? It's just kind of part of how the whole thing works. So this Rahm Emanuel gets to take money on both sides while he is pushing policy that he's getting paid to push on outlets that consider themselves media and journalistic outlets, without them revealing that he's getting that money. It's, again, I know a lot of people on the left will say, yeah, this isn't surprising. We see this all the time. Yeah, I know, but it's always worth pointing it out. Okay. It's not that I'm stunned by this. It's that we need to constantly make sure that people are aware that this is how corporate media outlets conduct themselves. This is how they operate. This is how their business model demands that they operate. And it also plays very much into political narratives and what kind of policy we get, and how the duopoly is propped up and supported and maintained, and how consent is manufactured for various horrendous policy decisions, right? So Rahm Emanuel, a great example of that. He also now gets to continue to benefit from his willingness to play ball, as he's given the ambassadorship to Japan by the Biden administration, despite pushback from not even just leftists. A lot of people pushed back on Rahm Emanuel being part of the Biden administration. He was initially up for OMB director, and that would have been a pretty big job to give to Rahm Emanuel. And there was enough pushback that Biden decided not to do that, waited a few months, and then gave him, maybe even longer than a few months, and then gave him ambassador to Japan, thinking that it had quieted down enough that he could get away with it. But unless you are a partisan down the line Democrat, you really can't stand Rahm Emanuel. There are not many people who can. So it indicates how powerful having that really is in Washington, D.C. and in the corporate press. And I want to make sure to point out that this is how the corporate media conducts itself, is engaging in exactly what they did with Rahm Emanuel. Be suspicious of the guests that they have on regularly, whose financial information they will not share with you, right? It's very likely that many of these guests are taking money from companies or industries that affect their commentary on exactly what they're brought on the network to discuss. And they will not reveal that to you. They will not be transparent about that. It's very regular thing. In fact, it happened with Heidi Heitkamp just like the other day. I don't remember which network she was on, maybe a week ago. Faiz Shakir, which is Bernie's former campaign manager from 2020, was on an interview with Heidi Heitkamp and whoever was hosting it. I think it was CNN, but I might have that wrong. It was one of the cable news outlets. And Shakir basically said, no, you're taking money from these rich assholes, and then you're doing their bidding, and it should be known that you're taking this money. Okay. And Heitkamp, I'm sorry, not Heitkamp, the host was stunned that this would be brought into the discussion at all, and almost offended, and said, well, nobody's questioning Heidi Heitkamp's, principles. Nobody's questioning that, right? Went out of her way to defend somebody who's clearly engaging in corruption and clearly doing propaganda that is rooted in that corruption. So this is how the whole game is played. And I want to make sure to continue to just remind people of that, right? I know a lot of people on the left look at a story like this and go, well, yeah, duh, we all know that, right? It's still very much worth covering. Rahm Emanuel, horrible dude, engaged in corruption, engaged in propaganda, and did so with the platform of ABC and the Washington Post and others. So just continue to keep your eye out for that whenever you see sources referenced in mainstream legacy outlets, whenever you see guests on cable news or other mainstream outlets. Just be really aware that they're probably not sharing with you the true incentive for that guest in terms of what commentary they're going to produce on the program. So that is it for today, you guys. I know it's a little bit shorter show than usual. I've had a lot going on and just didn't have time to prep a longer one. I'm hoping next week we can have a couple of guests and get back to the normal swing of things. But just want to remind you, realprogressives.org. If you want to contribute to our org, our Patreon is there. You can also find all of our other content, podcasts, articles, etc. there, MMT content, on and on. So make sure not to miss anything that we're putting out, and I hope everybody has a fantastic week. I will see you all next Sunday.